Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar, Getting In on Wellness Tourism. It is a $1.2 billion industry, and we're here to help you get a slice of that pie. So my name is Lisa Simonson. I'm the Associate Editor of Recommend Magazine, and I'll be moderating the webinar, which has been made possible by Recommend, as well as the following partners: St. Lucia Tourism Authority, and the Wellness Tourism Association. So thank you. This webinar is a complement to the Wellness Travel Trends Survey that was conducted on recommend.com. So be sure to visit recommend.com to see the results of that survey. During the conversation with our panelists, we'll speak about wellness travel and offer tips on how you can sell to this huge market. But before we begin, I have a couple of housekeeping items. During the presentation, feel free to enter your questions in the chat box. We'll gather them together and hold a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, time permitting. And don't worry if you miss something. The webinar is being recorded and you will receive a link via email to access the recording at your leisure. So we're so happy to well, not to see you, but that everybody's here. Go ahead and tell us, starting now and during the chat, where you're from. We'd love to know where everybody's located and that kind of thing. So let's start the webinar also by having the panelists introduce themselves, and we'll start with Chanel.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm Chanel Varner. I am the founder and CEO of Moonglade Travel, and we're a luxury boutique travel consulting company in the Charlotte area over here on the East Coast in North Carolina. I like to call myself the travel guru, and wellness is my secret sauce, so to speak. So I'm happy to be here and share my insight on the topic today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Funkhauser. I am the owner of Journeys That Fit. I am hosted by Gifted Travel Network, and I have had my travel company with them for the past 7 years. Before that, I was in the business world for quite a while, but I have focused on active group wellness travel from the very beginning and have just kind of expanded on the different aspects that I do in the world of wellness travel since its inception. I live in Colorado and incorporate wellness into my daily life. Thanks, Lisa.
And Kieran, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Kieran Dhaliwal, and I'm the founder of Concierge Vacations based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And my business is also focused on wellness. That's why we're all here. But it sort of evolved with wellness as the term has changed. So I consider myself more of an expert in my client and helping them find the right fit for their wellness journey.
Fantastic. Thank you, panelists. We're very lucky to have the three of you experienced people to help guide the listeners and the watchers. So we'll jump right in, and this is a question for all of you. How would each of you define today's wellness vacation? Whoever wants to start may do so. I'm just gonna. Anybody?
I can start.
Okay.
So I think wellness has evolved and it's become very personal. I think it started as personal, but I think what I'm seeing more and more is it becoming more of a balance between, your physical health, your mental well-being, and also some level of spirituality. So it's sort of a combination of all of those things and not necessarily just focus on one.
Great. Would anyone else like to jump in on that?
Yeah, Lisa, I'll chime in. I loved how you mentioned the word balance. And to me, I feel like it is. It's that internal and external reset or recharge is what I'm seeing currently. People, they want to escape. We all do want to escape the, daily hustle and bustle and have those fulfilling and transformational experiences. I just wanted to add that in as well.
And I would say when I was looking at building a travel business, I started more on the active side in looking at what I thought I wanted to build, but I definitely wanted the underpinning to be wellness. And the more I thought about it and the more I tried to figure out what my niche was, I made myself laugh one day, because when I said it out loud in a meeting, which I'm about to tell you what I said, the whole room laughed. But I realized that, wellness is a term that has so many different interpretations, just as the other panelists said. And so I realized that my niche and my ideal clients are people that are active travelers, wellness travelers, but at the end of the day, they like to raise a glass and like say cheers to whatever they've done all day long. So said differently, what I said in the meeting was, I cater to active wellness drinkers. And, everyone laughed, but, and 90% of the time, somebody says, that's me, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so I think some of us, including me, when I was trying to come up with what is wellness travel, I was focused more on the restrictive side of wellness, or the really holistic side of wellness, which is great. But at the end of the day, having a cocktail or a mocktail or something and building community around group travel and talking and having fun, to me, that's all wellness as well. And so my whole business is exactly that, kind of active wellness drinkers, and whatever's in your glass at the end of the day is great. You can do whatever, but a lot of people have a sigh of relief when they hear me say that it's not as restrictive as they may have thought it might be.
Terrific, thank you. So whoever wants to answer, just please put your hand up. What is it about selling wellness travel that first piqued your interest? Anybody have a thought on that? Okay, Mary?
Sure. I think we all get into this business because we have a love of travel, but we also have passions in other areas. And I wanted to build a business around things that I loved. And so I started doing that around building community through groups that were active and wellness, but they were come with me groups. So most of my business is exactly that. And that's what I've called them. And some people in our host company call them, or come with me groups. And it's a way to sell group travel where you get to go along and you get to engage in what you're doing. So, at my core, kind of building community and designing these curated group trips with experiential travel experiences from around the world are a really great recipe that I've found for at least one aspect of the business.
Awesome, thank you. Go ahead, Chanel.
I'll chime in on that, Mary. I think it's twofold for me. Definitely my own personal values on how impactful, meaningful, or intentional travel experiences can be, and how they can drastically, improve and enhance us physically and mentally and spiritually, like we all have mentioned. But the reason why we're here today, it's a $1.2 billion industry, and it's rapidly growing, especially post-pandemic. So being able to help my clients get to the why, or the meat of why they're seeking this experience, and helping them craft it so that it goes beyond what they want, but really gives them what they need, I think is really just rewarding for me. That's one of the things that has certainly piqued my interest. And in addition to helping clients on an individual basis to craft their individual experiences, we also host women's retreats, or women's wellness retreats as well. So I love, Mary, how you have the come with me experiences, because being able to live the lifestyle and also be able to share it and bring people along for the ride has definitely been twofold for me.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Karen a question. If you had to describe selling wellness to, let's say, some people in our audience are new to selling this segment, what kind of advice would you give them to get started selling wellness?
Yeah, I think first you have to understand what wellness is, and it's so many things. And the definition is so personal to everyone. So there's not a global definition. I mean, there is obviously Wellness Travel Association has defined it, but in our own minds, there's so many ways to think of wellness. So I think first off, you as the advisor have to understand what wellness means to you And if there's a specific part of wellness that you want to sell, excuse me, like Mary said, there's fitness, there's, health, there's transformational, there's so many areas of wellness. So I think initially understand for yourself what wellness is. And then when you're speaking to a client, make sure you're on the same page of what they think wellness is, because our job as advisors is really to help them meet them where they are in terms of what we're proposing and what we're doing. So most people right now, I think wellness is really been synonymous with meditation and yoga and a very narrow focus on wellness. And so people tend to be like, oh no, that's not me. And people, I mean clients. So when you give them some education and also help understand, what is it, why are you interested in a wellness vacation? So ask questions. Ask a lot of questions, understand for yourself, and also help them understand. And then you'll be in a better position to actually help them with whatever where their intention is. And it really starts with their intention for the trip.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you. So as senior travel advisors who are experts at selling wellness travel, how have the suppliers that you work with upped their ante to better accommodate wellness-minded travelers? Mary, do you want to take a crack at that one?
Sure. I think I look at that in 3 buckets. So if you look at suppliers, one of the easy ways to look, one easy group are the long-standing wellness resorts that are out there, that when someone says, I want to go on a wellness vacation, your mind just kind of automatically clicks into some of those resorts. But there are also other resorts other suppliers that are doing some new things. And then, there are other resorts that are doing most things that would be in the wellness area. So if I look at these 3 buckets, the long-standing resorts, one of the things that is new that I'm seeing is that they're offering immersions. They're offering immersions on trending topics. They're bringing in expert presenters with, current research and recommendations. Things like boosting brain health, for example, navigating parenting today, mastering sleep. I've also noticed that those kinds of resorts are focusing even more on more of a vegetarian forward cuisine, is how I would say it, trying to help us all understand the value of a vegetarian diet, or incorporating more of that on our plate every time we eat. And they also continue to have a focus on digital detox and getting into nature. So I think the long-standing resorts are really doing those kinds of things to really up their ante, especially the immersions. Some suppliers, I would say, are doing things like adding pickleball, fastest growing sport in the United States. You'll hear me say that word again on this webinar. Some of them are having wellness. Some cruise lines, for example, have wellness hosts now that are on all of their ships and having lots of activities going on. They're having easier access to healthy choices for beverages and food, allowing you to borrow workout gear. You can stream workouts on your TV in your room at night. And last but not least, some of them are allowing you to have a pillow menu, so you can get a good night's sleep. I would say most resorts are upping their ante just by having menus that are a little more farm to table, or easier to find those kind of farm to table items and whole food items. And another big one is just having healthy sugar substitutes that are there, and milk substitutes than what we used to have. So that's what I've seen.
Great, thank you so much.
Oops.
Does Chanel
Sorry,
have a
go ahead,
comment
Chanel.
on it?
Yeah, so I love that, Mary. I just add that I've loved to see how some of the suppliers have incorporated, like you mentioned, those guided holistic activities into the programming. Wellness travel is very individual, but it's also communal as well. So being able to have those guided activities with other like-minded travelers, I think has been very clever. I've also enjoyed seeing how wellness aesthetics have been implemented throughout the property. It's, it goes beyond just the spa and the fitness facilities. It's the, intentional spaces for meditation. It's the lighting. It's the smells. I've really loved how they've enhanced those practices throughout properties.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that you're seeing wellness from suppliers that are not traditionally wellness. So everyone is, so to speak, jumping on the wellness bandwagon because it is such a big market. So I was just in Las Vegas for Virtuoso Travel Week and was staying at Aria, and you would not expect Vegas, middle of the strip, and they actually offered what Mary was talking about, which are these wellness rooms and wellness floors where you can, in the middle of all of this madness of Vegas, get away and actually pick a specific room that has, the pillow menu, and it has the sounds and helps you sleep and the nutrition. So there's a lot going on in non-traditional wellness hotels and resorts to try to bring in those wellness clients as well.
Okay, great. So stay there, Kieran. What is the trickiest part, if you can speak to that, of selling wellness travel? And maybe you've faced some kind of a challenge that you've had to overcome, and anybody else who wants to jump in on this too.
Yeah, I think the trickiest part, as in all, for advisors, selling any kind of travel, but specifically wellness, is budgets. And mapping, for me, it's being able to understand the intention, but then map it to something that meets their budget. And their budget, for most clients, they don't realize the cost associated with travel in general. And I focus on luxury travel. So for luxury travel and luxury wellness travel, that's been my biggest challenge. But ultimately, it's really helping educate them to either lower expectations or increase budget.
Great, thank you so much. So, Chanel, if a client came to you ready to book a wellness vacation at a certain resort that they saw maybe on social media, but you don't think it's a good fit for whatever reason, how would you go about directing them toward another location?
Yeah, that happens often, believe it or not. I just like to take a deeper dive to understand their why, going back to exactly what it is that they're looking for and that they desire in this experience. And then based on that, what are their goals? What's the outcome, the overall outcome? Um, and sharing honestly and transparently, if based on my knowledge and experience, that this resort is going to get them there. So there's some tough conversations and decisions that have to be made, but ultimately just sharing as much information and knowledge that I can, and taking it back to, again, their why and their goals, and kind of putting it side by side, pros and cons for that property. And then just sharing and introducing alternatives that may be better aligned with their goals. Usually that helps, but ultimately the decision is theirs. And, I'm there to reiterate that my goal is to ensure that they have the best possible experience that they can based on my support and experience. So definitely difficult, but usually once we get to the root of, this happened recently this week, just once we get to the bottom of their why are we going on this experience? What do we need from this experience? And really highlighting more so the cons than the pros of that property. Usually a client will come around and take our suggestions based on that information.
All right, thank you. Mary, did you want to speak to that?
That's all 100%. I agree with everything that she just said. I just have one quick add about when you listen to them, you validate their perspective, and then you say yes and instead of but, or however. Those buts and howevers can have a negative connotation in them. But if you say yes, yes, I hear you, and here, maybe you'd be interested in having me share some other opportunities that I love, and you can consider that in your thinking. So it's exactly what Chanel just said. It's just a way to kind of ease into it, because sometimes we stumble with how do we even change the direction of the conversation. So yes, and has been very valuable to me.
Thank you. And I know you three have brought up some trends like pickleball. But are there any other trends that you think are coming down the pike or already here that are really innovative or different? Kieran, you want to speak to that?
I think overall, the trend that I'm seeing is coming out of COVID. There was a lot of need for balance and a lot of need for, I think the community part of it has still existed. The social interaction was so needed.
Mhm.
But I'm seeing more of a move towards the physical. So really wanting to be outdoors, active, and from a destination standpoint, go outside, not that the borders are open. People are really focusing on the destination first, in my case. And then going to what's available in that destination.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So, Mary, in terms of styles of vacations, do most travelers seek out an entirely wellness vacation? Do they incorporate it into a more traditional vacation? Um, and also what Kieran just said, with the pandemic, do you see more travelers seeking wellness because it's top of mind after perhaps going through a sickness themselves?
One of the things Kieran just said is that people come forward normally with a destination first,
Mhm.
and then we'll build the wellness trip around that. I agree with that statement, and that's my experience too. I would say that internationally, if they want to go somewhere internationally, the destinations first, and then what we're going to do in that destination gets built into that. The wellness and active part of it gets built in and incorporated. And unless they want to do something very specific, like I just had a client say, I want to, go hike Kilimanjaro, that's a very specific active wellness activity. Other than that, internationally, I would say it's the location first, wellness active second. Domestically, however, it's easier for people to travel domestically, obviously. And so they do look at wellness retreats at some of the domestic resorts, and they may come to me saying, yes, I want to go to a wellness retreat, be it in Texas or Arizona or Utah or someplace like that. So that I'm seeing like a 4-night, usually like a 4-night wellness weekend. Those are very popular and would be kind of wellness forward, wellness first. I think that the pandemic did have an impact on travel as a whole. My business personally has always been focused on that. So I personally haven't seen a shift because that was my niche. But I just in speaking with other advisors and other just people in general, that incorporating wellness into their travel is absolutely part of it, and seeking out suppliers that have wellness at their location is also another part of what they are looking for.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Chanel, which types of hotels do wellness-minded travelers usually gravitate toward? Is it one with a lot of spa activities, fitness activities, meditative spaces? Is there one thing that you're seeing, or a few? Oh, can't hear Chanel. No,
You're on mute, Chanel.
there you go. Oh, well, I think there's a little technical problem there. So, hey,
I'll
there-
jump in until we can hear
Yeah.
her voice.
Okay.
I kind of have a top 5, the way I look at it when I look at places to place my clients and some of the things that they're asking for. But generally my top 5 are nature, spa, farm to table food, some sort of healthy food options, unique lectures or guides that can be incorporated into their stay, and on-site or nearby physical activity and multi-adventure specifically, such that they're not only doing one thing. So they could kayak and do yoga and go on a hike and those kinds of things. So nature, spa, farm to table, unique guides and lectures, and multi-adventure would be my top 5.
Okay. Karen, did you have a thought about that? What kinds of hotels your clients are requesting?
Yeah, I think it just, I agree with everything Mary's saying. It's spot on as far as what I'm seeing as well. But I think I ultimately go back to the intention of the client. So the right hotel, the right experience is going to be based on their intention. And so I lead with what is your intention? And then we figure out, what are the elements of that, that the right property or the right area or the right, what is it that they're looking for? And how do we find that within the hotel that they're looking for, the resort or the destination? So much of what Mary said, though, it's all about, healthy eating, food. It's that balance of nutrition and active lifestyles.
All right, great. Thank you. So here's an interesting question that I would wonder myself. Do most people booking a wellness travel vacation travel solo with a group of people? Do they travel as a couple? What do you think? Either one of you, Mary?
My business is primarily group business. So my answer is going to be skewed. So the other advisors should definitely answer this question too. But I would tell you, even my solo travelers are coming to be part of a group, either a group that I've custom curated or another supplier that has a organized group. They would go into those. I don't personally see as many just solo travelers going out on their own. And when it's a couple, yes, they do wellness travel, absolutely. I would say in my business, it's skewed. If the trip is international, it's normally one person doesn't go without their plus one, whoever that is, because it's a longer trip, it's more expensive. So couples would go together as together or part of a group, so you'd have couples as part of a group internationally. Domestically, I would say you would have more solos and you would have more couples doing their own thing and not be part of a group, because it's just easier and you can do shorter duration as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Kieran, did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I did. I think for me, I'm seeing actually more solo women wanting to do the work on themselves. So definitely the skew is more women for my business. And it's, if they're either going solo because there's something they want to address specifically in their wellness, whether that's, I just need to get away and rebalance myself, or I need to refocus or work on whatever it is they need to work on, and they don't want to do that amidst a group. But then on the other hand, I'm also seeing groups of women who are wanting to go, but it's people they already know. I'm not seeing as much of put me in a group of people I don't know. I'm seeing more me and 6 of my girlfriends want to go to Mirabal or whatever it is, right? It's sort of a balance. And now what I'm also seeing is from the women, as the empty nesters are coming through, it's more couples. It's more couples wanting to re-engage, reconnect, and do that in a way with all of the elements that we mentioned.
Okay, thank you. So that kind of leads into the next question, men versus women in this space. How do they differ in terms of what they're looking for? And is it still mostly a woman's place? Janelle, do you want to talk about that?
And so I would love to see more men going on wellness vacations. I'd love to craft more wellness vacations for men, but with our focus being predominantly women's wellness, I tend to be more women. For couples, we have had some couples on some wellness getaways as well. And we've also started to incorporate couples and co-ed wellness retreats that we're looking to introduce and increase awareness just around the benefits of wellness travel, period, especially amongst men. So for me, I'm definitely seeing more women, but I'm tapping into the males as well as much as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody else on that particular point? If not,
I would just say very quickly that one thing I've experienced is that the more active wellness that you have, the more the men are willing to say yes. That's just been my experience. If you add, an off-site for golf, or you have pickleball, or you have water or snow sports involved, it tends to pull them in.
Okay, that makes sense. So what destination, Kieran, perhaps in your opinion, is a standout for wellness travel? Actually, I would love to hear from each of you about that, whether it's a region of the world or a specific destination.
That's really
Karen, you want
hard.
to start?
Really hard to pick, I think, because for me, it's, you know, are you looking for active? Are you looking, then there's certain destinations that play really well to that. For me,
Mhm.
water is really important. So I look for a lot of wellness on water. So a lot of islands, Antigua's coming up, Antigua and Barbuda, you know, St. Lucia. There's so many different islands that I would love to go. Maldives, Jolly being perfect example of, you know, getting on water and having all of the elements of wellness. So it really depends on what speaks to you. In terms of, I don't know that there's a best destination. There's great destinations for water. There's great destinations for people who love to hike and be active and do outdoor things. So again, it's a what if, or, you know, it depends, I guess is the answer.
Do you think maybe warm weather, or do you see cold too? Doesn't matter.
I see mainly warm weather,
Mhm.
but again, you know, if they're into active fitness, then as
Yeah.
Mary mentioned, skiing is a great sport. And so they would be drawn more to the cold weather, you know, the mountain resorts during that time. So again, client driven in my mind.
Yeah. Chanel, did you have a point to make on that one?
Yeah, I just add, I think it is on what type of experience they're looking for. You know, obviously the Asia, you know, we hear a lot of the Bali, the India, the Thailand type of, or more spiritual type of wellness. But again, it kind of just depends on what their interests are. We also see a lot of the Caribbean as well, as far as those Hawaii's and islands, the water areas. Definitely more of those tranquil experiences. So it kind of just depends. But Asia is probably the one thinking out the spiritual wellness experience.
Great, thank you. So Mary, on the flip side, what destination is emerging when it comes to wellness travel?
I agree. These were, and when you step back and think about all the inquiries that you get for wellness travel, you know, what's really standing out, what's emerging, uh, those are unique questions. You know, I would say what I'm hearing is some of the blue zone areas. But Sardinia is one of the ones that comes up as a blue zone, and blue zone is one of those areas where there's more centurions, you know, people over 100. And Sardinia is one of those, and it's a little on the pricier side. It's a, you know, a little remote because it's an island, but they're going all in on wellness resorts and the luxury side of the wellness resorts. But I also just have to put a nod into some of the Asia countries and Asian countries as well. Vietnam and Cambodia have been coming up on my radar a lot recently as well.
Very interesting. And so, Kieran, what area of the US, just in your opinion, is tops for a wellness vacation, like suitable hotels, you know, good nature experiences? Is there a specific area that kind of stands out to you?
I think there's several. I think California and Arizona would be the two states that I would pick. Arizona, of course, has all your top resorts. You've got Energy Vortex, if they're interested in that. There's a lot of outdoor activity. And the same goes for California. And in California, you can add water as well. So I think
Yeah.
for me, it's California and Arizona that seem to have the most options for clients. And then going back to your question on emerging destinations, I just wanted to add that not more so from a client perspective, but from a supplier's perspective, Saudi Arabia is really pushing hard for wellness, and the whole Red Sea area. They are creating a destination where all of the top brands are coming in, including Miraval and Six Senses. So I'm interested to see where that goes, and if there's going to be any interest in, from a client standpoint, to you know, really seek those destinations out.
That is interesting. Thank you. So Chanel, travelers who seek out a wellness vacation are usually also very much in tune with sustainability practices. Because of this, do they usually ask about the hotel's sustainability practices and what they're implementing?
Yeah, I think sustainability is definitely an important factor and definitely ranks high for a lot of our wellness clients. I love the fact that many resorts and destinations have honed in on the topic and have already implemented many practices for visitors. I don't typically get a lot of specific questions on sustainability. It's definitely I would say, a top ranking priority outside of the why. But luckily, since a lot of the resorts and destinations have already started to implement these practices, it's kind of automatic or automatically assumed mostly, especially when it comes to certain brands and destinations. So don't see the question specifically, but we're definitely checking that box.
Do either Kieran or Mary get that question from your wellness clients? Are they looking, is sustainability a priority for them wherever they're staying?
I don't think it's part of what I'm asked specifically, as Chanel said, but I think they appreciate the efforts that the resorts are making towards sustainability. So it's something they give a nod to, but it's not something that's necessarily part of their criteria that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. I think it's true what Chanel said, that people could assume that it's such a huge trend, and it has been for years, that they're already implementing some things. So Mary, are you selling to the Gen Z crowd, the mid-20s? And if so, how do their requests differ from the older generation? Being a parent of several Gen Zs. Me.
I'm right there with you, Lisa. I get it. I think I want to answer this question by saying I think I wish I was selling to more of them, but I'm not. But what I am seeing is that they're coming along with their parents or some other person that may have the financial means to bring them along. So I do have them on some of my group trips, or perhaps it's even easier to bring them along on domestic ones versus international, just from a price point perspective. But that's what I have experienced, is that it's more they're coming along versus a direct client.
Do either of the other two of you, have you seen like different types of requests from Gen Z, Chanel?
I agree with Mary. I don't currently sell to Gen Z crowd. Most of my clients are in their 30s to mid to late 50s. But I think Gen Zs are super trendy, and I think that they are still looking for some sprinkles of wellness vibes, but definitely with the social media wow factor, in my opinion. So I don't see too many of them, in my opinion. Just from social media trends and things that I have been seeing, they're in that space. It just looks a little different than what we typically curate. And I haven't noticed that it's full immersion in wellness travel, but having access to a variety or some sprinkles of wellness amenities.
I would agree
Okay,
with that. Yeah.
thank you. So, Kieran, not all bookings are made from the same mold. What are some of the more challenging wellness travel bookings that you've had, and why? Why were they traveling? And what did you do to appease the client?
So I think most of the challenging ones I've had have really come from oh my God, they have no idea of what they want. And the challenge is helping them figure out what it is that they're really looking for, and why wellness travel, and what does it mean to them. And I mean, the world and the wellness space is, far and vast. And so my biggest challenge with some clients was really understanding the why behind their wellness, and then trying to narrow down the plethora of opportunity to be something that might be a fit for them. Because ultimately, that as advisors is our goal, is to understand the intention, and then based on our knowledge and experience, be able to make recommendations. So sometimes if they don't even know what they want, the biggest challenge is trying to help them find a fit, when the first question is, what is it that you're looking for? What's the intention? What's the end goal, as Chanel said? What do you want to achieve out of this?
Thank you. Chanel?
One of the things that I've found somewhat challenging when booking wellness travel is the group wellness experience. And I think someone mentioned that earlier, especially when you have a group of friends. Wellness looks different for everybody. You know, some people are more of the laid back, tranquil relaxation vibes, some are seeking more of the outdoor and adventure. So trying to find a happy medium could sometimes be tough. But, you know, we've been able to have conversations and really dig deep and see what the why is or the reasoning behind each of their travel goals is. And from there, trying to find a balance between the relaxation and the adventure, just so that we take everybody's preferences into account. And luckily, there are many properties and destinations that have that balance. So that's been able to help in some cases, but it is a little difficult when we have a group of, you know, friends or relatives trying to travel together on a wellness trip, and everybody has different preferences. So that could be a little difficult sometimes.
Well, stay there for a second. Can you describe one of the more amazing wellness vacations that you've put together or seen clients do?
Oh, there are tons. There are tons. One that comes to mind, I just had a client on her first international solo trip earlier this year.
Mhm.
And we crafted an amazing wellness itinerary for. She did Greece and France. So we had Athens and Santorini and Mykonos with a little flavor of Paris. So being able to really dig deep and set the intentions for her trip. It was a mix of relaxation and recharge with some cultural immersion. And we were able to put a mix of those things together. So it was very interesting just having a variety of destinations and being able to make sure that we were checking boxes in each destination, from the variety of the resorts that we put her in and the activities that she participated in. So I'd say that would probably be one of my most recent ones. I also just had a group come back from South Africa, and hearing about the life changing and transformational experience that they had was pretty remarkable. I just honestly love how travel can transform you and awaken things that have been deep inside you that we didn't really know exist. So those are probably two that come to mind recently that I've had the privilege to work on.
Thank you. Mary?
Exactly what Chanel was just saying about the transformation side of it. And it's not so much about the exact trip, but it's about the outcome. And I would tell you some of the more meaningful outcomes I've had have been domestic trips to wellness resorts with groups of women that just have space, you know, and time to allow themselves to reflect and think through things. And then they share getting the group together, you know, like-minded people traveling together and coming together at the end of a day and sharing and having breakthroughs and tears and laughs. And it's really moving and powerful. And so sometimes it's not about how far did you go away, but how much work and how much reflection did you do during the trip.
Beautiful. Chanel?
Yeah, thank you, Mary, because that just jogged a memory of mine. We literally just came back from Costa Rica. I hosted a women's wellness retreat there earlier this month, and same thing. The outcome, the women shared how they they stepped outside their comfort zone. They challenged themselves, and they have achieved things that they didn't even realize that were possible, or never even thought or imagined that they can do. They had very spiritual encounters with some of the practitioners that we were able to connect them with. So it's that transformation of the experience and the outcome. And I love the fact that, you know, through these wellness practices, some of us are doing them at home and we're incorporating them when we travel. Some of us are learning new practices and techniques and tools in destination and able to bring those things back home. So I love that about it as well.
Thank you. Kieran?
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I think what both of you said is so important in terms of women's wellness and going in community. I've done several women's trips that are, you know, friends getting together, and it's definitely that, oh my God, we're just doing this for ourselves. We're not responsible for anyone. It is about our growth and our friendship and reconnecting. So it has a lot, you know, wellness can also be about reconnecting as much as your own growth. And the beautiful part of that trip was really seeing these women come together and then focus on themselves but also help each other grow by encouraging each other to try things that if they were alone, they may not have tried. So if there is one activity, for example, if it's sound healing and someone is really not that spiritual, or they don't consider themselves to be, doing that as a group, so it brings everybody along, and then that one person has now been exposed to something new that they wouldn't otherwise have tried themselves. So there's growth in going in these groups of women, really, that I see that have the ability to help each other, sort of lift each other up and try different experiences. And that was a domestic trip for me as well, Mary, for this group. So again, going back to domestic versus international, it could be either, and you can find your growth right around the corner from where you're at, and you don't necessarily have to get on a plane and 16-hour trip anywhere.
Yeah. So this is our last question before we open up to Q&A. And I don't know if this applies to all of you, but have you seen cruise lines offering more wellness options on board? Has anybody had that? Go ahead, Chanel.
So I don't specialize in cruises, but I do love how they have enhanced their wellness offerings and activities. I was so thrilled to see how, I think it was either last year or the year before, Celebrity Cruises connected with Gwyneth Paltrow's The Goop Lab, and they teamed up and created this kind of new and modern wellness travel experience at sea. And it included things like hosted workshops and movement sessions. They did pop-up wellness activities and live conversation with Gwyneth herself and some other practitioners that she brought along. So I love to see that they are incorporating more wellness programming into some of the sales.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks to all of our panelists so much, Mary, Kieran, and Chanel, for sharing your expertise. I think we have a few questions. I see them popping up, and we kind of addressed this one earlier, but what is the best way for a new agent to break into this niche business? Anybody have a thought on that they want to share?
I'd say niche even further because wellness is a big umbrella, as we can see here. Finding what your area of specialty or interest is, and really knowing your stuff is what I would say. I would say, find a niche, know your stuff, understand what your clients' needs are, and I would say walk the talk. I host these women's retreats because I've learned a variety of practices myself, things that work and that enhance my life and the lives of the women that we've crafted experiences for before. So that's where my specialty comes from. So I would definitely say niche even further.
Okay, thank you. Mary?
Yeah, I'd just like to emphasize that. I was just going to say to have a niche as well. And with mine, I was going to say have a niche or three. You start with one. And so domestic wellness retreats are an easier entree into this world, or maybe a neighboring international country like Canada, Mexico, the Caribbean. That would be a really great place to start. And then you can expand. And so you could go into some broader international adventures, or add, pickleball or something else like that to your business. But it comes back to also to the who, what, when, where, why, so think about the niche that you want to start in, and then who am I targeting? For me, it's adults. It's not families. It's not multi-gen. It's like-minded travelers. And so that's who my who is. And then kind of just going through that, like, what do they want? What is the level of wellness? How do they want to go? Do you want to do groups? Do you want to do put people on prearranged tours that are already out there? And where do you get this information? I keep a Google sheet with all sorts of notes that you can start doing. But if any of you are virtuoso advisors like I am, they have a vibe filter that you can look at a lot of what they offer. They have communities. You can get involved with their wellness community. And then, of course, the Wellness Tourism Association has a ton of resourcing as well. And you could consider a membership, with them as well.
Great, thank you. Somebody wants to know how they can get more information regarding Costa Rica. I don't know if this is straightforward, if there's maybe a US rep that you can point them to.
Yeah, so I do have two contacts in Costa Rica. There is well, one, we work directly with the resort. In Costa Rica, we stayed at the Calabuna, it's a boutique resort in Tamarindo, which was awesome. And there is, I believe it's Costa Rican Adventure, which is another. Yeah, those would be two recommendations.
All right, great, thank you. On our last point about cruises, somebody wants to know, having not been on a cruise in a long time, do they offer daily yoga and fitness classes? I don't know, you might have touched on that a little bit. Who was talking about cruises? Chanel, right?
Yeah, I don't specialize in them, so I'm not sure. I just love the fact that when somebody just based on how they introduce that, I feel like there are some specific cruises or cruise lines that do have that wellness flavor or vibe intermingled into their programming. So I can't, other than Celebrity, I'm not familiar with any others that are doing it.
And Kieran? Thank you,
Yeah,
Chanel.
so I think there's quite a bit going on in the cruising space. Again, I'm not an expert in the cruising area. It's not necessarily something clients do ask for, but I have seen quite a bit. I think it's Seabourn that has a whole series with Dr. Andrew Weil. I think Oceana has raw food and plant-based menus. There's definitely fitness available. So I'm seeing Pilates, yoga offered during cruises. I don't know if it's a daily offering, but it's certainly there. And you'll see even river cruise lines like Ama Waterways have specific elements of their shore excursions, really focus on fitness or wellness as one of the options that you can. So it's out there. It's definitely out there in cruising.
Thank you. Mary?
I'm just going to plug a new cruise line that's out there called Explora Journeys. They have a luxury product that has a bent toward active wellness. And so if you're not familiar with Explora Journeys, because it's new, that would be one to go look for from an ocean perspective. And river cruising, I do participate in, and I'll just reiterate what Kieran said, active, the Ama Waterways does have not only excursions, and as do a lot of them have excursions with bikes and hiking, but they also have on-site wellness hosts that are on all of their ships in Europe.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, somebody else has a question about luxury resorts. When they're doing their research, they think the sites are fairly generic and not clear. So how to drill down to fitness, yoga, vegetarian cuisine when you're doing your research. Can anybody speak to that?
I would say just reach out. I've definitely developed some relationships with some resorts and even destination suppliers. Reach out, learn more about what they offer, what they don't offer, some of their programming, their amenities. Ask those questions, have those conversations with them just to make sure it's a good fit for you and the client would be my first suggestion.
Okay, great. Thank you. Somebody's in the skincare industry and expanding to wellness and planning to get wellness or retreat training. You have any recommendations for that? The training element?
Yeah, I would say the wellness travel specialist course through the Travel Institute and with the Wellness Tourism Association played a huge part in creating that curriculum. And I actually just completed the course, I believe, about 2 months ago. So it's very, very in-depth and very educational to really get a good grasp on the industry and how to grow and start your wellness business. So that would be a suggestion.
Great, thank you. Mary?
I would add ASTA also has some prior, as long as you're an ASTA member, you can see their prior webinars and they have some information on there about wellness. So that would be another area to start with. But getting back to the question before this about doing research, and it kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with this question too, but destination management companies that look at a destination can be extremely helpful in helping you narrow down. You tell them what you want and what you're looking for, and they will feed you back the information that you're looking for and really help narrow that down. And quite frankly, they've curated the list, so you know that they will be great recommendations. Also, location tourism boards, contacting a local cities or areas tourism board is another great resource.
Great, fantastic. One of the attendees is saying retreatboss.com for retreat training, if you've ever heard of that. Thank you very much. And yeah, Wellness Tourism Association. I think that might be it for our questions, unless I'm missing something. So I think that's it. Oops, new message. Oh, that's a big thank you from a lot of people, panelists. We really do appreciate it, your expertise that you've offered today. And I'm hoping stick to recommend for further information on wellness. And of course, the websites that were mentioned, the Wellness Tourism Association. Don't forget St. Lucia, who is one of our sponsors. And want to thank you all very much for joining us today. And thank you for everybody who took a time and joined us as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.